Have you ever had a moment that just sticks with you? Like a splinter in your mind, something that doesn't make sense no matter how many times you try to explain it. Well, I got one of those, and it ain't just some ghost story I cooked up during a long drive. What I'm about to tell you happened. I lived it, and I'm still not right from it. My name's Sylvester Wick. I'm from Wichita, Kansas, born and raised in a house full of loud cousins and barbecue. My old man ran a tire shop, and my mom worked night shifts at the hospital. I wasn't cut out for 9 to 5, so I bought myself a food truck, Wick's Grub Stop, and took my chance rolling through towns selling street tacos and brisket sliders. It's done me good, real good actually. I get to meet people, see places, and work my own damn hours. This happened last winter. I was doing a short tour through New Mexico and Arizona. A lot of tourist spots and outdoor campers in those areas, even in the cold. I'd park near hiking trails or small roadside stops, sell lunch until dark, and move on. That night, I was somewhere outside of Gallup, New Mexico, a real isolated stretch. I'd finished up early cause traffic was dead, and I figured I'd save myself the trouble of driving at night by pulling into a dirt clearing of the road. Just a quiet little pit stop so I could check some texts, drink a protein shake, maybe even stretch out for a bit before heading back into town. Calm, still air, not a sound beside the occasional coyote, yep, echoing off in the distance. Then I remembered something. I had read this weird-ass story in one of those yellow newspapers at gas stations a few days earlier. You know the kind, next to the candy bars and lotto tickets. Skinwalker stalks road trippers near Shiprock. It caught my eye because of how matter-of-fact it sounded, not like the usual nonsense about Elvis living on Mars or Bigfoot sightings behind the Wendy's. I laughed at that time, but now I wish I hadn't even looked at it. It started simple. I was sitting on the folded down tailgate of the truck, finishing up my shake, when I noticed something off just beyond the headlights. There was this tree, maybe 50 yards out, twisted up like an old man reaching for help, and behind it was something sitting there. I couldn't make out at first. It wasn't moving, just crouched low, shoulders too high, head cocked like it was trying to figure me out. Thought maybe it was a coyote, or even some weirdo met out in the brush. I yelled out, "Hey, you good, man?" Nothing, just stared. And then it stood up. This thing, man, it was tall, gaunt, covered in something like skin but not skin. Too pale, too tight, and the legs were all wrong. It had this face that didn't sit right on its head, like it was wearing it not as a mask but like someone put on a human face and didn't know how to align it properly. That's when I remembered the articles. Skinwalker, the Navajo legend, a witch who becomes a beast by doing the unthinkable, killing their kin, wearing their skin, becoming something else. I threw the rest of my drink, grabbed my flashlight and hopped back into the truck, locked the doors. I told myself maybe it was a trick of the light, maybe I was tired, but even after I turned the headlights off and waited in the dark, I could still see it. Its eyes, reflecting light that wasn't there. Then it disappeared, just gone. I peeled out there like a bat out of hell, tires spitting gravel. Got to a small gas station, about 20 minutes down the road, told the old guy at the counter what I saw. He didn't even flinch, just said, "Don't stop after dark, son, not around here." I should have listened. Fast forward a week, I was heading east through the Navajo Nation, passing through a remote stretch near Chinle. Sun was going down and I hadn't eaten all day. I pulled over at this dusty rest stop with a half-busted bathroom and picnic bench. Just a quick bite and stretch before I hit the road again. This time I had company, There was another guy parked there, a hiker, maybe in his 30s. Name was Jalen. Nice dude, kind of wiry. He was driving a beat-up Subaru with Colorado plates and was cooking something on a portable burner. We struck up a convo. I gave him a few leftover sliders from the truck and he shared his soup. We got along pretty well. It was peaceful until we heard a branch snap in the brush behind us. We both froze. The air got real heavy all of a sudden. Not cold, just wrong. Like the quiet wasn't natural. Then we heard it. This voice. My voice. Calling out from the woods. Hey Jalen, come check this out, man. But it wasn't me. I looked at Jalen and his face went pale. That was you, right? I didn't answer. I grabbed the small hatchet I kept in the back of the truck and he pulled a hunting knife from his backpack. We stood back to back, listening. The voice came again. Jalen. Only this time it was his voice, mimicking, mocking. And then the thing came out. It charged at us from the tree line, a twisted skin-draped figure, arms too long, mouth too wide, black holes where the eyes should have been. It moved like it didn't belong in its own body, jerky, twitchy, like a puppet with tangled strings. We swung at it, me with the hatchet, Jalen with the knife. I caught it in the shoulder and felt bone, but it didn't react like you'd expect. No scream, just a raspy snarl that sounded like three voices overlapping at once. Jalen slashed at it, caught it across the chest, and it stumbled back, but not before clawing him across the ribs, tore through his jacket like tissue. We didn't wait around. We bolted into the desert, sticking low to the scrub. We moved quiet, ducking behind the rocks and shrubs. The thing always just a few yards behind, sniffing, making these awful imitations of our voices. I swear at one point it called out, "Sylvester, Mama's waiting," in my mother's voice. It stopped me dead in my tracks. My mom had died 5 years ago. Jalen had to pull me along, whispering, "Don't listen, don't listen." We hid in a shallow wash, barely breathing, for what felt like an hour. Every time the wind shifted, we thought we'd hear it eventually. We heard a truck, engine in the distance, and ran like hell toward the road, waving and yelling. Thank God it stopped. It was a Navajo man in an old pickup. He didn't ask questions, just opened the door and told us to get in. When we tried to explain, he shook his head. "You saw it. That's all I need to know. You don't speak of it again." He dropped us off at a small roadside motel. Jalen wrapped his ribs and left in the morning. We never exchanged numbers, just a quiet note. I've never seen him since. So yeah, that's what happened. I still drive the truck, still travel around, but I don't go through Navajo land anymore, not after dark. And if I have to stop, I keep the doors locked and the lights off. And I never, ever respond to voices in the dark, because once you hear your own voice call back at you, you ain't ever the same again. Alright, I haven't really talked about this much, and when I do, most people just kind of laugh it off or tell me I imagined the whole thing. But you know me, I'm not the kind of guy who gets spooked easy. I've hiked through the Rockies, spent nights in the Utah desert, and run a food truck solo in places that don't even show up on half the maps. But this was different. This was real. So I was doing a circuit with my truck through Louisiana. Not the tourist traps or the cities. I'm talking rural, deep in the woods Louisiana. I'd set up around the fringes of the Kisatchie National Forest, near a couple of remote hiking trails. Spring was in full swing, sun was out, weather was perfect. It was the kind of peaceful that makes you let your guard down. I'd heard some stories before I came out there. Little blurbs in those old yellow papers you see at the back of gas stations, articles about folks going missing, talking about the Rougarou. Most of it sounded like Cajun ghost story stuff. You know, half man, half beast, walks like a man, but has a deer skull for a head, red eyes, a foul stench. The kind of thing meant to keep kids from wandering into the woods. But a couple of those stories, they felt different, too specific. Like someone had seen something they couldn't explain. Anyway, I didn't think too much about it at that time. I was set up just outside the campground that hadn't officially opened yet for the season. A buddy of mine, Darren, was traveling with me for a bit, helping out while he figured his own stuff out. We were parked near this long dirt trail that disappeared into the trees. No cell service, just blue sky, birds, and the occasional breeze moving through the pines. The first day was chill. We grilled, we cleaned, we prepared. A couple of hikers came through, nothing weird. But right around dusk, when the sun was bleeding through the trees and casting these long shadows, I noticed something off. I was sitting on a folding chair behind the truck, just letting the heat of the grill fade off me, and I got this strange sensation. You know, when you feel like someone's watching you? That prickling on your skin, back of your neck tightening up. I looked toward the woods, and there, behind the tree, maybe 40 yards out, I saw something. Not moving, just staring. It was tall, too tall. The shape was wrong. At first I thought maybe it was a deer or something, but it didn't have antlers, just these long bony arms wrapped around the tree trunk like it was hugging it. But it wasn't a hug, it was hiding and watching. I called Darren over. He squinted into the trees, didn't see anything at first, but then I pointed directly at it. He froze, didn't say anything for a long time, just stared. Then he muttered, "Let's pack up early tonight." We closed up the truck, locked everything down. I kept glancing back, but the shape was gone. I told myself it was a shadow, a trick of the light, maybe even an animal. But I couldn't shake the feeling. That night we slept in the truck, didn't talk much, just dozed in shifts. We both had hunting knives nearby. I had an old .38 in the glove box, never needed to use it before. The next morning everything looked normal. Bright sun, birds chirping, no weird vibes. We tried to shake it off. Darren suggested a short hike to clear our heads. We left the truck locked up and headed a mile or two into the woods. Now I hike a lot and I know how the woods sound. Even the quiet has a rhythm. But this was wrong. The deeper we went, the more muted everything felt, like sound didn't carry right. No wind, no birds, just this thick silence that pressed against your ears. And then we started hearing it, crunching off the path, maybe 20 or 30 feet behind us. At first, I thought it was another hiker, but the steps were wrong. They were too slow, too deliberate, like something was following us but trying to keep its distance. We stopped. So did it. I whispered, "You hear that?" Darren nodded. He pulled out his knife. I grabbed a thick branch off the ground. Stupid, I know, but better than nothing. We waited. Then we kept walking, trying not to look behind us. The footsteps started again, always just out of sight. Eventually we broke into a clearing. Sunlight poured in. It felt like a blessing. But then Darren said, "George, look." Across the clearing, on the edge of the trees, it stood. 7 feet tall, maybe more. Thin, but the kind of thin that looked hungry. Its skin was pale and stretched, like it barely fit in the bones beneath it. And its face, Lord, its face, it had the shape of a man, but the eyes were glowing red. And its mouth was all wrong, too wide, with too many teeth. It didn't charge at us. It didn't make a sound. It just stared. Then it ducked into the shadows again, gone. We ran. Not full out screaming, panic, but quick and quiet. as much as we could. We didn't want to draw attention. We followed the trail markers, moving as fast as we dared, but the thing, it followed. Always out of sight, always just at the edge. We'd catch flashes of it between the trees, a glimpse of its shoulder, a glint from those eyes. We kept moving. Twice we stopped to listen. Once we heard it breathing, heavy, raspy, like it was struggling with the shape it wore. The sun was starting to dip, but by the time we got close to the truck, we could see it through the trees. But then we heard a noise to the left, something big, fast, crashing through the undergrowth. We made a run for it. As we got to the truck, Darren fumbled with the keys. I turned, branch raised, and saw it burst from the trees. It was faster than I thought it would be. It moved like a predator, but it didn't come for us directly. It circled, fast, low to the ground. I think it wanted to toy with us or something like that. Darren got the door open. I shoved him in, jumped behind the wheel and peeled out. I didn't stop until we hit a town with street lights and traffic. We slept in a gas station parking lot that night. Didn't say a word. Next day, we checked the side of the truck. Deep gouges, like claws had raked along it. Whatever that thing was, it got close. Too close. I haven't gone back to that area since. Darren moved back to Tennessee. Says he doesn't like the woods anymore. You can laugh if you want. Say it was stress, shadows, whatever. But I know what I saw, and I know what followed us. That thing out there, whether you call it the Rougarou or something else, it's real, and it doesn't forget faces. You know, I'm not the kind of guy who spooks easy. I run a full truck solo for God's sake, been through back roads in Arizona, pulled all-nighters in East Texas rest stops, and camped out next to more dry riverbeds than I care to count. But what happened last winter, up near the Algonquin region in Ontario, Canada, that was something else entirely. It was late January. Windy as hell. I'd been running my truck, beans bites, through some of the more remote towns, kind of chasing the logging routes. You know, feeding the early crews, the locals, anyone hungry enough to walk half a mile through snow for a burger. It was a good business, weirdly enough. People liked the novelty. Anyway, this one week I'd been staying near a secluded pull-off, east of the park, kind of nestled by a frozen lake and a thick stretch of pine. No cell service. Closest town was about 20 minutes away if you drove fast and didn't slide off the road. I'd been stationed there a couple nights, sleeping in the truck, keeping warm with the propane heaters and layers. Quiet, peaceful. But on the third night, something started to feel strange. I was sitting in my folding chair behind the truck, wrapped in a thick parka, just watching the sky. Wind was howling through the trees, making them creak in that unsettling way, like they were talking to each other. That's when I felt it, the sensation that someone was watching me. You know the one, like a chill across your spine, that has nothing to do with the weather. I stood up, scanning up the tree line. Nothing. But then I saw movement behind one of the bigger trucks, maybe 50 feet into the woods. Something was there. At first, I thought it was a moose or a deer, some big animal, but it wasn't moving right. It was crouched, just partially peeking out from behind the tree, unmoving, staring, long limbs, no visible fur, just thin, bony, too tall. The wind shifted, and I swear I caught a whiff of rot, like meat left out in the sun. I called out, "Hey," thinking maybe it was a hunter. No answer. It didn't move. That was enough for me. I packed it in early, locked the truck up tight and slept with the small hatchet I kept under the front seat. Didn't sleep much though. Next day I debated leaving, but my pride got the better of me. Plus, I feared it was probably some animal. I kept the serving window closed and made food for the passing snowmobilers. Nothing weird happened all day, but that night I was cooking up some leftover chili on the portable stove when I heard it. A low grunt, then a dragging sound like something heavy scraping against frozen ground. I killed the flame and froze. Nothing. Then a crack of a branch closer this time. I grabbed the hatchet and the flashlight and eased toward the back of the truck. The wind gusted and blew snow across the clearing, but through the swirls I saw it. It was standing between two trees, tall as a damn elk, but skeletal. Skin stretched tight across its frame, pale like death, ribs jutting out like it hadn't eaten in months. And the eyes? Red, sunken, but glowing faintly in the dark. Its mouth hung open, slack, too wide, and there was blood, fresh blood, on its chest, on its hands. I stepped back and must have made a sound, because the thing turned its head slowly, jagged, unnatural movement like it wasn't used to its own body, and let out this scream. It was like a whistle mixed with a human wail. It charged. I ran, slipped twice, once almost lost the hatchet. I ducked under the truck, crawling through the snow and slush, heart pounding. The thing crashed into the side, hard enough to dent the metal. I heard claws scraping. I didn't breathe, just waited. After what felt like forever, the noise stopped. I stayed under there for nearly an hour before crawling back out. The night was silent again. I couldn't leave, roads were iced, and it was too dark. I made a decision to move quietly, carefully. I didn't know what that thing was, hadn't heard of it before. I just knew I couldn't make a sound. I took my keys, my flashlight, a backpack with some food, and slipped into the woods. My plan was to hike toward the old ranger cabin I remember seeing a couple days back, only 4 miles. Every few minutes I'd hear it behind me, sometimes close, sometimes distant. Once it let out that scream again and I had to bury myself in snow under a fallen tree to keep hidden. It found me once, brushed past where I was hiding. I could see the frost forming on its skin, smell the stench of it, but it kept going. I reached the cabin right before dawn, windows boarded up, door locked. But I pried it open, spent the day there. No sleep, just me and the sound of the wind. Eventually I hiked out the next morning, made it to the truck by midday. Something had raked the sides again, blood smeared on the rear bumper. Not mine. When I got to town I finally mentioned it to an old guy who ran a bait shop. He looked at me, pale as a sheet, and just said one word. Wendigo. I'd never heard of it before. He told me enough to know I'd come face to face with something people shouldn't see. Said they used to be human once, driven mad by hunger, possessed by something older, something evil. I haven't gone back. I changed my routes. I stick closer to cities now, but I don't think it forgot me. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind picks up, I swear I can smell that rot again. And I lock the truck every damn time.